A lot has been made about the Packers receiving core, or lack thereof, really. There being kind of a lack of talent in that receiving core. But I think there's another issue on the offense that is concerning to me. I'm not sure if it's devastating, but it's concerning. And so I want to talk about it, and it is the offensive line. So we're going to kind of go through each of the offensive linemen, talk about their strengths and their weaknesses, get into some film. And really, I want to start off with the interior offensive line, because for me, that is the part that I am concerned about. First, let's talk about Jon Runyan, the left guard. This is his Pro Football Focus page that you see on the screen, and he was fine last year, a 64.6 grade. It's not the end of the world. Was better in pass protection, not so much in run blocking. If we want to go over to some film and talk about this play, which is he's going to be going, he's the left guard here. You have a center next to him, and what he's going to do is sort of try to pass off the defensive tackle who is lined up against him to the center, Josh Myers, who we'll get into in a second. And then he runs out and he blocks somebody else. That's how this works. As you see, right when this play begins, he's going to do a good job, I think, of helping make that block work and getting over to that second level. Then from there, he does, at the second level, get over to block the defensive back, which, takes a little bit of shiftiness, but he's able to do it. So he has the athleticism to be a good guard. I think it's only his third year as a pro, and he did improve from year 1 to year 2. So I'm willing to believe that it's possible he could continue to improve, despite the fact that he's, was just a 6th round pick. There's some promise there, and, again, does a solid job in the pass blocking game. As a whole, did not do great in the run blocking, but there were still some flashes. This is one of the flashes, so that's how I feel about their left guard. So that's one guy. Meanwhile, for the right guard, Royce Newman, now this is his page, and again, not the best run blocking grade for him. 73rd out of 80 eligible guards. Pass blocking grade was better at 47th out of 80 eligible guards. That's still not great. 62nd out of the 82 eligible guards. So if you figure, hey, there's 32 teams, each has 2 guards to play. He's sort of a low-end second guard type of player. But a couple of things to worth noting is that obviously you see he's another guy who is very young. This is only going to be his second year. He was a 4th rounder, so a lot of kind of mid-round picks, day 2 and day 3 picks, really a lot of day 3 picks that might be starting for this team. But again, going over to his film, it's not horrible film. It really isn't. And something like this is a good example where it's going to be a one-on-one matchup and watch what happens. At first, you're going to see that he does a decent job at holding off this block right away. He's not giving up too much pressure. So Newman is doing a fine job at this point. Eventually, the Detroit defensive tackle is able to get off that block and get over to Rodgers for a sack. So, not ideal. You gave up a sack, and I think this is a good example of showing what Newman can do, is he's not going to give up pressures in 1 second. He's not one of those offensive linemen that you see like, the Cincinnati Bengals right guard situation last year, which just at times just made it almost impossible to get anything going. That's not what Newman is. He's someone who can, be a body and block in front, but he's not someone you're relying on, and he is going to be a weak link on most offensive lines, in my opinion. To round out the interior, Josh Myers, now the third of the 3 interior offensive linemen. Maybe there will be another one, and we'll get into that in a second, because there is still, listen, we have a whole preseason to talk about. We don't know exactly what's going to happen. These are just my projections as to who will start. But anyways, let's talk about Josh Myers, who obviously one thing that's going to get held against him is the fact that 1 pick after him was Creed Humphrey for the Kansas City Chiefs, who's been awesome at center for them. So that's just an unfortunate break for the Packers. You picked the wrong guy there probably, at least through 1 year. Josh Myers has, he was a 33rd eligible center out of 39 eligible centers. There's 32 teams, right? And only 1 center per team. So not ideal so far. Also a rookie though, 2nd round pick, 62nd overall. So late 2nd round pick last year and did not live up to it. However, I want to show this play when talking about Myers, because this is actually probably the best thing going for the Packers in general. Is I think it's fair to say that trio of offensive linemen, they have not yet established themselves as being great offensive linemen. They just have not. Again, maybe you watch the tape and disagree. People are always going to disagree when we evaluate, talk about tape. But I think it's fair to say, even if you're a diehard Packers fan, yeah, it's a bit of a weakness in this team. But on this play, so it's a one-on-one matchup, Josh Myers, I always kind of say, like, what signifies a great center is one who can just make their block one-on-one. If you're a great center, you can block guys one-on-one because it is more difficult. You have to snap the ball. Your hands are going to be a half second slow in getting up. So, that's just the reality of the position. Josh Myers now, with a one-on-one situation he's about to try and block, that's kind of a scary situation. But there is one benefit, and that benefit is who plays quarterback. Because as a lot of people will tell you, pressures and sacks aren't necessarily offensive line stats. Sometimes they're quarterback stats. Watch how while Myers is going to make this block, Rodgers gets rid of the ball so quickly, it doesn't matter. And part of that, that's worth mentioning, is he got rid of the ball quickly to Davante Adams, who will no longer be there. So that could make the offensive line look a little worse, just not having a star receiver. Of course, it all works together. That makes sense. But even though Myers looked to be in trouble right away, it didn't matter because Rodgers can get rid of the ball quickly. And as long as Rodgers can continue to do that, having a weaker offensive line might not be as, bad for a team like Green Bay, who has, a good head coach who can scheme stuff open and a great quarterback. Moving on to the tackles, Ellington Jenkins is someone who, I'm putting him at tackle, but it's worth mentioning he can play anywhere on the offensive line. So this is where things get a little bit tricky. Where is he going to end up staying at tackle? He played a lot of left tackle last year because of the David Bakhtiari injury. So I don't know. But you see that his PFF grades, very good. He was the 11th highest graded tackle according to PFF last year, and he was still, top 25 at his respective position in the previous 2 years. So he's done a lot of good stuff. This is a good play explaining what he can do, I think, where he's going to be playing left tackle, moving up to the second level to block a defensive back, which these can be tricky, right? You're an offensive lineman. You expect a defensive back to be able to be shiftier than you and sometimes get to the, get off to the side. However, watch how Jenkins is able to move up and he is able to block that defensive back out of the way. Very good play from Jenkins. And again, this is just the kind of thing with Jenkins is regardless of what position you're playing, being able to do that can always come in handy. So this is the good thing that the Packers have is they have two guys who have played very good at the tackle position. The second of which is the guy who I have as my second favorite tackle in football right now. It is David Bakhtiari. This is Bakhtiari's PFF statistics. So again, you see, he was banged up last year. He only had 27 snaps last year. So that was not ideal. This was, you would obviously like for just more playing time. But you look at the previous years, he was the second highest graded tackle in 2020, second highest graded in 2018, second highest graded in 2017, and he's been consistently top 10 or fringe top 10 since 2016. So he's obviously amazing. When I said he's my second favorite tackle, I have Trent Williams ahead of him because Trent Williams was absurd last year, but Bakhtiari is number 2, and he could be number 1 because he is that fantastic. I don't even think I need to use a play to describe how good he is because we know how good he is. We've seen him play football before, and you can establish that he's good. And so with that being said, 2 great tackles, 3 okay interior offensive linemen. There are worse offensive lines in the league. There's no denying that. And you also have Zach Tom, who was a 4th rounder that they drafted, who some people loved Zach Tom. I know some people had a 1st round grade on Zach Tom. He went pick 140. So personally, there were things I liked about Zach Tom. I liked this selection. I thought it was good value at this point. I was not one of those 1st round grade Zach Tom guys, but I think I might have had like a 3rd round grade. So him going in round 4 feels like a steal and feels like that's something who, in a good situation, which the Packers have been a good situation, it's nice to have depth here. Now, is he a tackle? He played tackle in college. Maybe you move him to guard because you need a guard. Whatever you do, we'll see what happens with Zach Tom in this preseason. It'll be something to watch out for, as maybe that could help bolster the interior, and at the very least could, be good depth. Again, this is the sort of offensive line depth chart that I currently have with the tackles, and you're going to see the number next to it. So Ellington Jenkins was 11th out of 82 eligible tackles last year in terms of Pro Football Focus grades. So that's what that is. So you have Jenkins, you have Bakhtiari, and then you have Zach Tom, who should at least speak for good depth. John Runyon, Royce Newman, and then Josh Myers being the interior. That's just not as good. It just isn't. You see the numbers. It's not that great. That's the reality of the situation. But the one nice thing is I feel like they at least have some depth here, and it's not a complete mess. So I doubt it will inhibit their way to run an offense whatsoever, but will it hurt them? Yeah, it'll probably hurt them. But that's what I think. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments below. What are your thoughts on all of this? Always love hearing from you. And of course, as always, thanks for watching.